two people were.
Okay, yeah, not. Okay, thank you. Appreciate
So
it.
does that mean people got it?
Dude, I was way too optimistic about almost to know kind of like decent stuff. Yeah, I can't.
No, he's right there. He's right there.
No.
Who's
His name's not on the phone. It's just like,
I have a really nice
All right, we're back at it. Yes.
He will be in 1 minute.
Is he not on the Google one?
Yeah.
All right.
isn't that an often include like
I can't say all these.
Hi everyone, I'm Shank.
Can you hold on a second?
Yes.
She's going to update them.
Go ahead. We're pressed for time. Go ahead.
Hi everyone, I'm Shashank. So today I'm speaking on basically a book that's The Innovator's DNA, and my report is going to be based on that. So basically, what's the formula for success? Analyzing, planning, implementation, and execution. But these are all the things that they teach you in a business school. These are all the delivery-driven skills, and this is what you generally do. This is not what innovators do. So what is it that innovators do? What is it that makes them tick? Well, according to the authors, they researched a lot of, spoke to a lot of innovators, researched a lot of material, and they came up with a model. It's called the Innovator's DNA model. So it all starts with the courage to innovate. That's basically challenging the status quo and taking risks. This leads to a few behavioral skills that they have. That's basically questioning, observing, networking, and experimenting. But what all four of these lead to is basically a cognitive skill that sets innovators apart, and that's associational thinking, and that's what leads to the big idea. So, well, that's all fine. I mean, that's all what innovators do. I'm not Steve Jobs. How is this related? Well, the point is, innovation is not in the genes. I mean, few people are gifted, but even if you consider that way, genes can be modified. So, the basic point is innovation is an active endeavor. It can be done, and anybody can be an innovator. So I'll go through each of those skills, starting with connecting. So creativity is connecting things. That's what Steve Jobs said. Well, he also continued to say that when you ask a creative person how they came up with something, they generally feel guilty because they didn't really come up with that. They saw something, linked it up in their mind with something else, voila, they've come up with a new idea. So it's basically the cross-pollination of ideas, technologies, and disciplines. Where does this happen? You have like something called a Medici effect. That's where people meet and come up with ideas. That's what happened in Italy in the Renaissance, more recently in the Silicon Valley, and currently you have idea conferences like TED. And how does this work? This basically works on your other four discovery skills, and think of it as Lego building. You have different blocks. Each block is an idea. You have the more the number of blocks, the more ways you can combine them. And the more diverse the blocks, the better it is. Like you have SpongeBob SquarePants set, Lego set, and the Star Wars set. You combine them, you come up with really awesome constructions. Similar with ideas. So few tips. Force new associations. Try to think of, well, if you want a microwave and a dishwasher. If you mix them, what can you come up with? People actually came up with a small-sized dishwasher which uses less water and basically heats the water, cleans better. Generate metaphors, like what if I could watch TV like a magazine? That's apparently how the TO came up with. And build a curiosity box, just like the IDEO folks have this box in which they put all gadgets. We also can maintain a box. Anything interesting, drop it into that. Next time, later, when you're faced with some problem, look at stuff in the box. Maybe you can come up with new ideas. Next is questioning. So basically, there are a few questions. Questions that describe the territory. These are the what is questions. And what caused questions. These are questions basically when you ask and you try to find out what exactly the problem is and why people use certain products in a certain way. The next set of questions are disruptive questions that disrupt the territory. These are why and why not questions and what if questions. Why and why not. An example of why and why not is the co-founder of Polaroid went on family vacation with his family, and he took a photograph of his 3-year-old daughter. And she said, I want to see the photograph. And he said, not now, you have to develop it. And he said, why not? And that's when he thought, why can't I see the photograph immediately? That's when he worked on the Polaroid and came up with an instant photograph. Similarly, what if questions can be used to add a constraint and remove a constraint. Say, that's how the Apple iPod came out. They said, what if the MP3 player is small enough to fit in the pocket, but big enough to store like 1,000 songs. So you can add constraints and remove constraints with these set of questions. So, tips for questioning. Question storming. We've all heard of brainstorming. What is question storming? Have a group of people, think out a problem, come up with 50 questions. Each person comes up with a question, writes it on a board. No questions asked about like what the answer could be. Just keep coming up with questions. You see a question, you can come up with a different question. Keep a question-centered notebook. Like, for example, Richard Branson has a notebook in which he keeps noting down all the questions he's come across. Recording these questions is a good idea because later you can read those books, come up with ideas. Observation, that's the next skill. Wuja-de. I mean, we've all heard of deja vu. But what's Wuja-de? Wuja-de is the experience of seeing something for the first time, though you've seen it 100 times earlier. Example of this is Ratan Tata. So he goes from home to office and office to home in his car every day. So one day he saw a family of 4 traveling on one scooter in the rain. That's when he thought, why can't they go in a car and avoid the rain? But that's when he realized it's not affordable. And then he went on to make the Tata Nano, the cheapest car in the world. So observation, basically you have to look at everything from an anthropological view, basically view the item being used in the environment it's supposed to be in. Like look for workarounds. People make, what is a workaround? Workaround is a partial solution, it's a quick fix. Look for these things. Many times there's a business idea hidden in all of these workarounds. If you can come up with a solution to that, that's the business idea. Look for surprises and anomalies. Especially when you come up with a product, you think you have aced it, you nailed it. But then you observe the user using your product, and you realize that he may use it in a different way. That's probably because you didn't design it right, or probably that's a new use for your product. Change your environment. This is very important. Whenever you're in a new environment, you tend to observe things more keenly. An example of this was in the car company Daimler. One head engineer took his team to a fish museum, and they observed fish for a whole day. How is this related to cars? Well, they saw the shape of the fish, they studied it, and they came up with a new design for a concept car which drastically reduced drag. So tips for observing. Observe customers, like I mentioned, how they use your product. Observe companies, any company from a different domain. Go up to them, observe how they work, learn stuff from them. Always, everybody has a mobile phone with a camera. Keep taking photographs of stuff you come across. You can keep a record of these. Record your observations. And observe with all your senses. It's not only hearing, seeing, hear, sight, smell, touch, everything. Networking. So we all talk about thinking out of the box. Well, the best way to think out of the box is by meeting people outside your box. Basically outside your domain, outside your constraints. So how do delivery-driven people and discovery-driven people network? Well, delivery-driven people network because they want to further their careers, contact people with, who have different resources, influence, power. Discovery-driven people basically network because they want to learn new stuff, test new ideas, meet people who are not from their domain, from completely different domains. So that's the why and target. So basically you have to tap outside experts. An example of this would be CPS Technologies in Boston. They make ceramic composites, advanced materials, and they were facing a problem in which, while freezing the material, ice crystals would be formed, and it would make the material very fragile. So they read in a news journal, a science journal, where few people, semen freezing experts, they basically faced the same problem, and they got one of those experts into their industry, used their technology, their ideas, and they solved their problems. Attend networking events. That's the best way to get new ideas. So, few tips would be expand your diversity. Diversity is not only the background which you are in, but also the age group, the diversity from a different country, from a different socio-economic group, anybody. Just expand your boundaries. Start mealtime networking. Pick a person, sit down for lunch with them, a different person, exchange ideas. Mealtimes are a perfect way to network. An example would be, I worked for 4 years at Intel, and the president of the company would always go to a different table and sit with different people to speak to them. And this was kind of weird for me because I just joined the company and the president is sitting with me. But it's a great way to meet new people. Just put a deadline. By the end of the next year, I'll attend 2 conferences. We have conferences all over the place. Tech conferences are particularly interesting. So next one is experimenting. So all your previous skills basically answer the question how things work right now. But all your what if questions are answered only by experimenting. So try new experiences. Experiences could be live in a new country, learn a new skill, work in a completely, totally different industry, take a new course. Take apart products and processes, ideas. Example would be Michael Dell. When he was 16, he got his parents to buy him a E-SAR2 computer. What is the first thing that he does? He takes it apart. Takes out all the components, tries to understand how they work. Then he thinks, why not? I can add a few components, make it faster. Bought a few components, realized it's very cheap to buy them individually and assemble them yourselves. That's how he started Dell. Prototypes and pilots. The best way to understand if your product works is by piloting and coming up with multiple prototypes. The founders of PayPal, they wanted to, the first product was storing information securely on your Palm Pilot, credit card information and stuff. They were successful to do that, in doing that, but they realized who would want to store like credit card information on your phone? What's the point? Then they realized they went a step ahead and they implemented beaming money from one phone to the other. It was really good because their investors beamed them $4.5 million via the Palm Pilot. But then you realize there's a problem with this approach. You need to be with the person face to face to beam him money. When you're face to face, you might as well use cash or credit card. Then they thought about it and they came up with a solution to send money via email when you don't need to be face to face. So that's why the best way to go about doing testing your idea is by prototyping. Another thing is the experimental time, basically the time you spend on experimenting with your product, is inversely proportional to the time spent in networking, observing, and all the previous skills. So tips for experimenting. So like I said, experimenting is not only with a product or your idea. Experimenting is like trying new things, cross physical boundaries, cross intellectual boundaries. Basically, take different courses. Like your vast variety of courses at Harvard. Pick up any course that's out of your domain, just for the heck of it. A classic example of this would be Steve Jobs taking a calligraphy class. I mean, if you didn't take calligraphy, you wouldn't have beautiful fonts today. Develop a new skill. Go skydiving, learn gymnastics, scuba diving, anything. Take apart any product that you have at home, anything that's not working. Open it up, see how things work, how things come together. And best way to go about spotting trends is follow people who are trend spotters. A few people like Kevin Kelly or Chris Anderson, Yeah. So these are the founders of Wired magazine, and these people are really good at spotting trends. Follow them. You can basically come to know the latest trends in different areas, and that's one way to come up with new ideas. So to sum it all up, you basically have to start off with the courage to innovate. That's challenging status quo and taking risks. 4 basic skills that you should look at are questioning, observing, networking, and experimenting. When you do all these, your mind starts to tuning itself to associational thinking, basically connecting random stuff, and that's how you come up with your idea.